over 5,000 hours on them or something. Oh, by the way, that eddy current inspection, we had to call a person up from St. Louis. They come up from Flight Star or West Star or whatever star that is down there. And it happened to be a female. And Todd was gonna buy an eddy current machine. I'll do them. Well, it takes about 6 months or a year of schooling to learn how to read one of them things. It's just a bunch of little squiggly lines on the screen. But this gal come up, we already had the plane sitting there, we had the wing, the bolt out of the wing. They tell you which bolt to take out. And she run her little thing up through there, it looked like a borescope. And she's watching this screen, and all I seen was a bunch of squiggly lines, but she knew what she was looking for. And she charged $2,000 to stick that little probe up in there, pull it back out, and read them squiggly lines per plane. So Todd said, yeah, maybe I better not do that. So that has to be done to comply with an AD. The airplanes were not even in for an inspection. We had to pull them in and pull that bolt out. We already had the new bolt sitting there. There's another tip. If you're gonna do something on an airplane, especially nowadays, with parts availability, if you're gonna do something and you know it's gonna take some more hardware, it's gonna take some certain pieces, parts, order them before you start. Or get your crew chief to order them or something. Otherwise, that plane's gonna be sitting there for however long it takes to get the parts. I've been waiting for 2 years on a rubber that goes up behind the propeller on my Navion. I don't have to replace it right now, but it needs it. And I gotta call and see if they're available. So these all become part of the maintenance records for the airplane. Who's responsible for the maintenance records? You are?
Whoever worked on the plane.
Dantes is. What?
Whoever worked on the plane.
When you work on a plane, you gotta have the maintenance records too. Who's responsible for the maintenance records?
The owner.
Who?
The owner.
Damn right, the owner. We ain't. We don't care. It ain't our plane. It ain't my nose going in the ground when he crashes. So, what's a temporary record? Is there such a thing as temporary? They all gotta be saved? No. What's a temporary record?
If you do like 100 hours, the next 100 hours you do it, you don't need to spell one.
100-hour inspection is temporary.
That's what it's told.
Yeah. Why is it temporary?
Because you'll do another one in 100 hours, so you do the next one,
Oh.
the other one goes away.
So technically, when you do the next inspection, you can rip that page out of the logbook and throw it away.
I believe so.
You're absolutely right. Technically, you could do that. But you tear all the inspections out, comes time to sell your airplane, and the next guy might not want to give you X number of dollars for that airplane if there's some pages missing out of the logbook. I wouldn't. If they call me to do a pre-buy on an airplane, that's the first thing I start looking at is records. Then we go look at it. So we got, what's all these numbers? What's a 337?
Major repair, we're all
Major repair?
or alteration.
What?
Okay. Is that my hearing aid sounding or somebody else's? How about if I put something on an airplane that it didn't come out of the factory with?
STC.
What's that?
STC, yeah, STC.
There's another word that goes in there if you look up 337s in the FARs.
alterations.
Right. You put something on an airplane that's not listed on the DCPS, you've altered the airplane. That also includes, and this come up, and it'll come up with you guys in power plant. The first ever field approval I had to get. Stinsons, that I work on a lot, are 75 and 80 years old. The parts wear out. Even parts that don't move wear out. And they're famous for oil coolers wearing out. And the reason they do that is they're expanding and contracting all the time. Every time you start the engine up and the oil warms up, it's expanding. Then you shut it off and it cools down and it contracts. Well, 75, 80 years goes by and it's expanded and contracted a lot. And they start leaking. Well, it just so happens that they haven't built one since 1948. How many years is that? 76, because I was born in 48. So the newest oil cooler around with a Stinson part number on it is 76 years old. In other words, there ain't none around. So we have to put a different oil cooler on. Even though we're replacing one oil cooler with another oil cooler, it's not the same part number. We have altered that airplane. So I had to fill out a 337, even though I didn't have to do much to it. I think I drilled a couple of extra holes for the bolts to line up. I used the same lines and fittings. I put a Niagara oil cooler on a Stinson. I had to go to the FAA and say, here's what I've done. Will you approve this? Well, my first field approval did not go very well. There was a guy working at the FAA named Kurt Lindauer. And Kurt and I got along all right. But he's a by the book guy, and a lot of them are. Nothing wrong with that. Safety is of the utmost importance. And he said, well, what about this and this on your 337? Okay, I'll go home and fix it. So I fixed it. In fact, I didn't go home, I come over here. I was pretty fresh out of school when that happened. And we didn't spend enough time on 337s. You will in power plant, I guarantee you. Because even if you never fill out another one, you need to know how. So I fixed it and I took it back and I said, how's this, buddy? Oh, okay, but what about this and this? Okay, I'll go fix it. And I'm walking out of there thinking, why the hell didn't he tell me that the first time? He was teaching me a lesson. And I thank him for it. Because the last 3 or 4 field approvals I've got, wisdom right through, man, no problem. In fact, there's a shutter that covers that same oil cooler. When you put this oil cooler on that engine, they work a lot more efficient than the old Franklin oil coolers. So we have to run a piece of tape over them. Almost year round. Unless it's really hot outside, you leave that tape on there because you want your oil to be around 180 to 200 degrees. It keeps the water and the crap oil out of it. If it don't get up to 180, your oil is just collecting crap in it. So anyway, this same Randy that I've fixed his cylinder, come up with this shutter, which actually belongs on a Vans home-built aircraft. And it's a great idea, and it's made heavy duty. He brought this to me, and he said, put this on my airplane so I can take that piece of tape off. It's a shutter, and it looks like this, and you can control it with like a choke knob, so you can expose the slots or cover them up however much you want. Great idea. I said, okay, where's the paperwork? Paperwork? Can you just grab anything out of the hangar and throw it on an airplane? Not without some kind of approval. Read part 21 in the FARs. That's where you get your TSOs and PMAs and XYZs and FBIs, all the rest of that crap. Somebody, somewhere down the line, has to approve this WASMA gets it to put on your airplane. Well, he said, I bought it off of eBay, but I've seen them on some other airplanes. Not on certified airplanes, you haven't. That's the difference. Well, anyway, a year or so went by, and I'm a member of the International Stinson Club, and one night we was chatting, and this guy said, I got a field approval to put one of those van shutter systems on my Stinson. Great, send me a copy of that 337, would you? Because if somebody else has done it, you can use their 337 to help you get your field approval. You can put it on there as reference. Well, after I got the copy of it, it had about 3 lines how he done it. I don't know how he ever got a field approval with it. So anyway, I made up a nice one. And I specify every nut and bolt and washer, the whole process of how I done it. Because one of these days, and one student in power plant couldn't get that 3Z. Where's the manual that tells me how to put this on? And I said, you're writing the manual. That 337 becomes how you take care of it. Because one of these days, especially if them Stinsons fly for another 75 years, I damn sure won't be around to fix it. If something breaks, the next guy's gotta know how to fix it. And the stuff that you use to put it on there with is in that 337. I'm picky, I write, okay, I used 4 MS-20-56 bolts and 4 960 washers and so on and so forth. List all that stuff. Because you have to write 16 points of instructions for continued airworthiness. Have you looked at the STC to put on the Airwolf oil filter? If you look at that STC someplace, it's got instructions for continued airworthiness. In other words, how do you do maintenance on this thing? Well, when you're writing up the ICA yourself, the very last one, number 16, says any modifications to this 337 must be submitted to the FAA in writing. So I've listed 4 MS-20-56 bolts. That means you can't use an MS-20-46 bolt. If you do, you're in violation of the SDC. If you're using a known established SDC that somebody else has got rigged up here, which is approved material, by the way, right? The FAA has approved that SDC for that airplane. And if you're using that to install something on an airplane, it would be in your best interest not to put in accordance with. A lot of people use IAW. I install this IAW with this SDC. Because what you're saying is, you've done everything listed in that SDC. That's hard to do for various reasons. Some airplanes you might have to move it around a little bit. And the SDC might say it's got to go 6 inches from the bottom and 8 inches over from the side. Well, if there's something already